there was something living in my basement. I never believed in ghosts. Even when I was a kid, I was the one laughing at scary movies and volunteering to check strange noises in the house. So when my wife and I bought a 100-year-old farmhouse just outside of town, the creaky floors and weird drafts didn't bother me. The basement did. It was unfinished. Stone walls, dirt floor in some places, and a smell like wet earth and rust. There was a single pull chain light at the bottom of the stairs, and even with it on, the corners stayed black. My wife, Emma, refused to go down there. "It feels wrong," she said the first week we moved in. I rolled my eyes. Then things started disappearing. Nothing major. A hammer, a box cutter, a flashlight. I figured I'd misplaced them while unpacking. Then Emma asked why I was going into the basement at night. "I'm not." She stared at me from the kitchen table. "I hear the basement door open almost every night around 2. I told her she was dreaming. That same night, I stayed awake to prove it. At 2:13 a.m., I heard the basement door creak open. Emma was asleep next to me. I grabbed the baseball bat from under the bed and stepped into the hallway. The basement door was standing open. The light downstairs was on. I was positive I'd turned it off earlier. I stood at the top of the stairs, listening. At first, nothing. Then a soft scraping sound, like something being dragged across concrete. I called out, "Hello?" The scraping stopped. A few seconds later, I heard footsteps. Slow, heavy, coming up the stairs. I ran. I slammed the basement door and shoved a chair under the knob. Emma woke up to me, hyperventilating and trying to explain what I'd heard. We called the police. 2 officers searched the basement. They found nothing. No signs of forced entry. No footprints. Nothing. One of the officers chuckled and said, "Old houses make old noises." I wanted to believe him. The next morning, the chair I'd jammed under the basement door was neatly placed back at the kitchen table. I hadn't moved it. Neither had Emma. That was when we installed cameras. One facing the basement door in the hallway. One at the bottom of the stairs. For 2 nights, nothing happened. On the 3rd night, the motion alert went off at 2:14 a.m. We watched the footage together. The hallway camera showed the basement door slowly swinging open on its own. Then the bottom of the stairs camera activated. At first, the basement was empty. Then, from the darkness behind the furnace, a man crawled into view. Not walked. Crawled. He was pale, painfully thin, and completely naked. His limbs moved wrong, jerking like a spider. He stared directly into the camera, with a grin so wide it looked like his face might split. Then he whispered, "I know you're watching." Emma screamed. The video ended. We called the police again. This time they searched more thoroughly. Behind one of the stone walls, they discovered a narrow hidden room. Inside were old blankets, empty food cans, and several of our missing tools. The police said someone had likely been living there for weeks, maybe longer. But there was no sign of him, no fingerprints, no DNA they could use. Nothing. We moved out the next day. The house sold 6 months later to a young couple. I tried to put the whole thing behind me. Then, last week, I got an email from the new owner. Subject line, "Quick question." The message read, "Hi, sorry to bother you." Weird question, but did you ever notice sounds coming from the basement? Also, do you know who the man in this photo is? Attached was a screenshot from their security camera. The same pale man was standing at the bottom of the stairs, grinning. But this time, he was holding a handwritten sign. It said, "I missed you." I still remember the summer my friends and I drove to the coast, and I haven't taken a road trip since. It was July, just after graduation. Me, my best friend Tyler, his girlfriend Jess, and our quiet friend Mason decided to celebrate with a spontaneous trip from Ohio to a small beach town in North Carolina. We were 18, invincible, and broke. Tyler borrowed his dad's old SUV. We packed sleeping bags and cheap snacks and promised our parents we'd call every night. The first day was perfect. Windows down, music blasting, endless highways and dumb jokes. By the time the sun started setting, we were deep in the mountains of West Virginia. That's when Mason noticed the truck behind us, an old red pickup. It stayed 3 cars back for almost an hour. Whenever Tyler switched lanes, it switched too. Whenever we slowed down, it slowed down. At first, we laughed it off. Maybe he likes our playlist, Jess joked. But the laughter faded when we pulled into a gas station near a tiny town, and the truck pulled in behind us. The driver never got out. He just sat there, engine idling, headlights on. We couldn't see his face because the windshield reflected the station lights. Tyler hurried us back into the SUV. When we drove away, the truck followed. No one said much after that. The roads grew darker and emptier. Eventually, Tyler turned onto a narrow back road, hoping to lose him. For a few minutes it worked. The truck disappeared. We all relaxed. Then we rounded a sharp curve and saw it parked sideways across the road, blocking both lanes. Its headlights burned into us. Tyler slammed the brakes. "Back up!" Jess screamed. Before Tyler could shift into reverse, the driver's door opened. A tall man stepped out. He wore dirty jeans and a baseball cap pulled low over his face. He started walking toward us, slowly, deliberately. Tyler threw the SUV into reverse and floored it. We fishtailed down the gravel road, branches scraping against the windows. The man never ran. He just stood there in the middle of the road, watching us disappear. We drove until we found the nearest motel, a rundown place with flickering neon and one vacancy. None of us slept much. Around 2:30 a.m., there was a knock on the door. 3 slow knocks. Tyler looked through the peephole. No one was there. Another knock, this time on the window. Jess started crying. Tyler pulled back the curtain. The parking lot was empty. The red truck was gone. By morning, we convinced ourselves it had been some creepy local messing with tourists. We checked out and continued the trip. For 2 days, everything was normal. Then on our 3rd night, after dinner in the beach town, we returned to the motel and found something tucked under our windshield wiper. A Polaroid. It showed the 4 of us unloading our bags at the Mountain Motel. Written on the bottom in black marker, "You should have stayed in your room." We packed immediately and drove home overnight. No red truck followed us. No one bothered us. When we got back, Tyler reported everything to the police. They took the photo, asked a few questions, and eventually told us there was nothing they could do. No fingerprints, no security footage, no suspects. We tried to move on. A few weeks later, Mason stopped answering texts. Tyler drove to his house. Mason's parents said he'd left early that morning to clear his head. His car was found 2 days later in a rest stop parking lot off Interstate 77. Unlocked. Wallet on the seat. Phone still charging. Mason was never found. The police said he was probably overwhelmed and ran away. But Tyler and I know better. Because 6 months after Mason disappeared, Tyler received another Polaroid in the mail. It showed Mason asleep in the back seat of the SUV on the first day of the trip. On the back were 5 words. "I let one of you go.